Hello, everybody. It's nice to see everyone virtually. I unfortunately have COVID and I've had it this week, so I'm really tired and it's been really rough. So I apologize for my voice and for the low energy. But today I'm going to be sharing with you guys about Thingvellir National Park, which is in Iceland, and it's called the heart of the country and nation. This is pretty special to me because I've actually been here, and when I did my internship in Iceland, I got to go here multiple times. So a lot of the pictures that you see are actually from my experience. So first things first, Thingvellir was established as a World Heritage Site in 2004. UNESCO called it the Shrine for the National Icelandic Identity and the Spiritual Center of Iceland. So the reason that this is a cultural center and was even considered a historical site is because the Althing, which is the Icelandic Parliament, has been meeting in Thingvellir since 1930 AD. And this was a time when everyone from all over Iceland would come and speak to the government, and laws would be in place, or if people had quarrels with one another, things would be handled a lot of times in like bloody battles, kind of like slaying, sort of Icelandic ways, excuse me, like very Viking-esque. And so that was kind of exciting, but a lot happened here. So the picture right here on the left shows the modern day Alping meeting in Thingvellir. And then this is also in Thingvellir, the picture with the flag. This is what is assumingly the very first parliamentary like meeting place. So people would camp all over the park for these 2 weeks of the Alping, but the actual people in parliament would meet where this flag is. So not only is it a World Heritage Site according to UNESCO, but UNESCO has sub-teams, and this one is called the Nordic World Heritage Association, and they labeled Thingvellir as a Nordic World Heritage Site in 1995, which is pretty cool because that was even before it was a World Heritage Site. And so I'm sorry, in 2016 is when Thingvellir became a park, but the group was founded in Thingvellir in 1995. And that represented 5 Nordic countries, which Iceland is considered a Nordic country, and then also a representative from Greenland. And this group works to reach conservation and preservation across the region, which a lot of people know the Nordic region to be the most sustainable in the world. So that's pretty exciting. Thingvellir is traditionally spelled Pingvellir. That thing that looks like a P is pronounced with a TH. So that's how we get the translation. And it was in 1928, the first national park in Iceland, which is pretty exciting. I actually took this picture when I was there, so that's pretty exciting. And Thingvellir holds cultural and historical value for the people of Iceland. So obviously the history of the parliament meeting there every year, and it was just becoming a modge podge of people from all over the country traveling to come here. Like men would bring like their oldest son, and it would be a coming of age experience. People would have booths and cottages and trade different things. It was just a total cultural festival. But also this is what formed the society in Iceland today, is these different kinds of traditions. And this park is only 35 minutes now from Iceland's capital city of Reykjavik, which sits on a bay. And so that was also like a lot of international things could come if people were coming from other countries. That didn't happen so much in the earlier days, but as things started to expand, a lot of foreign guests would come to Thingvellir as part of like the government's guests. And it's 24,000 acres and sits on an active volcano area. So the majority of the park is a lava field, which you can kind of see here. It's overgrown, but that was lava at one point. So some other cool things, these are funny pictures of me snorkeling in Thingvellir. There is 2 active tectonic plates, the North American and the European. So this is like continental plates that the world sits on, and those are slowly moving apart, and they just so happen to be moving apart right in Thingvellir, which is creating a canyon, and a lot of tourists will take snorkeling trips through the canyon. So this picture, the third picture, is the North America side and the Europe side, which like I literally was in between 2 continents, which is so cool. And this is a picture of me trying to touch both sides. And then over here on the right is Thingvallavatn, which is the lake that flows into the canyon but is separate from the canyon. And this is a very crucial ecosystem for Icelandic char and other fish species, which Icelandic people primarily eat seafood. So this is really crucial for Icelandic society to make sure that healthy amounts of population is happening in this lake. So those are just some cool things that you can do there. There's a lot of others as well. Some statistics is that Thingvellir is one of the top 25 things for tourists to see in Iceland. The Golden Circle is the #1 attraction tourists take. It's a 1-day, 8-stop tour where they hit 8 different amazing geographical like waterfalls and craters and just incredible different stops all within 1 day in one region. And Thingvellir is always the first stop on those tours, which is really cool because that guarantees them a lot of consistency with their tourism numbers. So as of September 21st, in the past 7 days from then, there was 41,771 tourists. And the day before, on the 20th of September, was 5,500 guests. Pretty consistently from 2004 to 2014, 77% of yearly tourists was increasing. And in 2021, there was 700,000 foreign overnight visitors, which is incredible considering that the population of the country is 300,000. 44% more than in 2020. So in 2021, there was 44% more than in 2020, which is showing that the country is bouncing back. 44% is a crazy amount of increase considering how strict the government has been with COVID regulations. They're very, very slow to let people back in. So that's really great to see that tourism is happening there. And then in 2021, 84%, and in July 2022, 93% of Icelandic overnight visitors stopped by Thingvellir or the region that Thingvellir is in. So we can assume that they went to the park. So economic impacts of Thingvellir, the country as a whole had rapid expansion into the tourism market. This wasn't something that they historically let happen. Like they were very secluded to themselves up in the north. So there's a lot of over tourism happening because just like so many different things, so many different people from different places kept coming all at once. But the government has been involved from the beginning. So that's been really good to keep consistency and have their guidance for economic growth. But now they are slowly trying to figure out ways to continue growth without overdoing it and affecting their people. The government is very good about asking the people what they want to see happen and making it happen. So it's really good to see that they are empowering their economy and empowering their people, but are not overdoing it. And within Thingvellir, it has increased GDP and job creation. However, there is not an entry fee for entrance into Thingvellir, and there's not really a lot of ways for money to be made in the park for most tourists. So hopefully my suggested solutions help with increasing that. Sociocultural impacts. There's historical and cultural education opportunities to be had at Thingvellir. I think that they're starting to do it, but my suggested impacts will show that there's more to that. There is government involvement, but there's always room for more government involvement in my idea. I feel like things don't happen from a sustainable perspective if the government isn't involved. So I believe that preserving and educating the culture of the locals is the only way that tourism can grow at a healthy rate, because people want to go, like people go to Iceland because it's so unique, and hearing about the local culture is something that is just such a once in a lifetime experience. It was my favorite part of my trip. So I think that the government can help that by continuing to educate the traditions of the culture in just like general schools. So pretty much government involvement should be by educating their nation consistently. And notable changes during interaction. So this was a really interesting story about how an employee at Thingvellir was checking people out, I think, or was like at the visitor center, and she said, "Thank you so much, have a great day." And that's something that is not a normal saying in Icelandic culture. And so she said that she noted that she was changing the way that she interacted to be more approachable for the foreign visitors rather than part of how she would talk to the locals. And I think that that just shows that in such a short period of time, people are already changing. For the better or for the worse, it's still a change, and it's taking away from the local culture. Environmental impacts. On all these pictures are obviously ones that I've taken since I was in them, but inconsistent concentration of tourism has caused a lot of damage to specific parts of the park. It's 24,000 acres total, but I think only 4,000 acres are actively being used by tourism. There is new and old infrastructure development happening around the country at different tourist locations, and I believe that there's opportunities for minimal new infrastructure development without it being over damaging to the environment, but still increasing tourism. Tourists ignoring rules and signage has caused a lot of environmental problems by them wandering off to different places that they're not supposed to and hurting the flora and fauna. And for an example here would be that there is one little like fountain where people can throw in different coins from around the world, and that had been a tradition for a while, but that is starting to spread and people just throw them into anywhere, and then all the heavy metals that are in those coins are affecting the water quality and can eventually affect that that very delicate ecosystem in the lake nearby. So there's some concern about that from the park employees, and also not limiting the number of tourists just in general. There's no limits on the amount of people who can come into the park every day, and that's a concern. Sorry guys, I am struggling. So my first suggestion is limiting daily tourists, just creating a number where the government works with the employees at Thingvellir to find something that encourages tourism but is not over just too many where the park people can't even manage everything that's happening, or that it's just a free-for-all. It should not be that way, and we don't want the park to be overran. People should still be able to enjoy the natural beauty and not have thousands and like 5,500 people and only 4,000 acres is a lot. So I recommend that they spread that out, but also limit the amount of people that can go in every day. A new infrastructure idea that I came up with was igloo campsites, and specifically down by the lake, which is not in the 4,000 acres that is primarily used. So this will spread tourism away, helping with inconsistent concentration of tourism. But I also recommend that these igloos are heated with geothermal energy. That's a really cool Icelandic experience that is so unique there, and not a lot of places in the world use geothermal energy, and it's a great selling point for tourists to be able to experience that. This will lead to job creation for the construction period, as well as the people that would need to run it, and that also the charging of reserving these igloos is a great way to make money, so that would help with economic development as well. And it's also really popular in Iceland to reuse old building materials in new building projects, so this could even be recycled materials to build these. And I think this would be great to spread the tourism outside of just the main attraction areas currently. And one thing to note is the reason I chose igloos is because I think it would be a lot less damaging than a massive hotel that could maybe store a lot more people, but this is smaller and it's more in the environment, and I just think it would be less damaging overall. So then imagine for number 3 that Thingvellir is a clock. The park itself is a clock and sectioned off by times. So my suggestion is that every year, different months, different like every month of the year, a different section will be open, or a few sections will be open, and this will rotate every year, so that way during the winter it's not always the same sections that are open versus in the summer. This is helping to protect the flora and fauna and giving areas opportunities to bounce back, so that way the walking, like the damage that happens from people walking everywhere, or if rocks are beginning to fall, and if the area just needs more care, either to be left alone or to be handled by the staff of the park, that there is opportunities to do that. It also will again spread tourism around, and I just think it'd be a really interesting way to show different parts of the park, because the diversity of geography and flora and fauna in Iceland is so crazy. You could literally be walking in one area and it'd be a lava field, and the next it's like a lush flower meadow, and I just think that this would be a really cool way to show the diversity as well, if people get to see more than just one section, or also to yes, give the areas ways to recover. But maintenance and fixing is also really important. I think a lot of times, like in other parts of the world, the Colosseum, for example, it's so ran down and there's no way you can't, like, they just have to close the whole thing. And then tourists who come to see the Colosseum miss out on the entire experience because it's being redone. But what if we could just close a part of it so that we're not limiting people's experience, but we're also taking care of the things that we need to protect? Number 4, I recommend requiring guides. So every person that goes into Thingvellir has to have a guide. This would be a really great way to spread sociocultural preservation and making sure that the local people are empowered to share their culture. These are all some guides that I got to have and locals that I met during my excursions through hiking trips and everything. This is a lady that I actually worked with who was also the face of Gray Line, which is a huge tourism excursion company. But yes, I think these were all people that I worked with and got to travel with, and it was just so incredible because they were so empowered to share with me their culture, and I loved learning it from them specifically. And it also would just limit the off the path exploration. If people know why they shouldn't wander somewhere, and if the locals can explain why that's important that they listen to the rules, people are a lot more likely to do it. So specifically, I would recommend that they book an excursion with an Icelandic tour sponsored company who have trained their guides and that Thingvellir has approved, or that they register for their trip into Thingvellir at the visitor center, where they'll be assigned a guide from Thingvellir staff. Number 5, I recommend creating and expanding the museum. So currently there's a visitor center at Thingvellir that takes 40 to 60 minutes to go through. But I think that there's an opportunity to expand this and create a 4D movie. So a 4D movie is a fully immersive experience. And because the park has changed so much geographically with the expansion of the continental plates, and historically just the kinds of people and the things that were happening in this space over the years, I think it'd be such a cool experience to see that all in film, and just watch it happen. And we could also make a full-on museum and have a lot more detail into it, not just a small little visitor center. And so this would be a great winter activity and help tourism grow. You could also charge admission. I think it would very easily become a must-see during people's time, and also create more time spent in the park. So that way people aren't just stopping by for 30 minutes, but actually investing into the park and maybe spending a little bit more of their tourism dollars there. And number 6, fun and interactive signage. So these pictures are from different examples of what I'm talking about from other parts of the world. But the reason that I recommend doing this in Iceland is because Iceland's myths is a huge part of their culture. Their folk stories have been passed down for hundreds of years. And they're really fun and interactive, and it's such a huge part of the culture. So if you can share this as an educational tool, it will help engage the people, the tourists, with the local culture, and help to share the history of the things happening in this area, while also making it fun, and hopefully people will listen. So leave the lava rocks to avoid the curse. So it's known that if you take a lava rock out of the area that it was supposed to be in anywhere in the world, you can become cursed. And so if there's a sign that says this by the lava field, people will be less likely to go and pick away at the lava field and just leave it alone. Stay off the path to protect our plants, and then a picture maybe of the purple flower I showed previously. These are Icelandic signatures, and it would be a great way to show that, just to explain like what this plant is and what the history of it is, why people are seeing it all over the country. Don't adventure any further. Icelandic trolls are watching nearby. If people need to stay off the path, that could be a great way to keep people from going in that direction, and also to explain about the Icelandic troll stories. And so this is also historical significance signs, very similar to how we have in the US at different like monuments and stuff, would be great to add so that people know what they're actually looking at. But the guides could also explain it. So that is what I have for you guys today. These are all my references. Thank you all for such a wonderful semester. I really enjoyed this class and getting to know you all. I'm sorry that I am not feeling well, and this wasn't my best presentation, but I do think very highly of you guys. I've loved this class. I can't wait to see all of your presentations, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your finals week and a great winter break. So thank you guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.